गोल्डन दोस्तों को बोलो जल्दी जल्दी ज्वाइन करने के लिए।
ओके मैम।
Okay, so we will start today. So in the last class, we have stopped at the topic that I was discussing about the SRS document, and there we have just started studying the concepts of the SRS document in depth. And there we have just studied the users or the varieties of users of the SRS document. Fine. So from today we will learn more and more about this SRS document. So the next topic related to SRS document which we will learn is why we need to spend time and resource in order to develop a SRS document, because we have been giving emphasis on this SRS document. And why is this emphasis given on? There must be some reason behind it, right? So today we will start learning that why we spend time and resource in order to develop a SRS document. The 1 minute. The digitizer is the no point is not coming. 1 minute, okay? Okay. So we know that a good SRS document, it will have a variety of usage. So the primary intention of making one SRS document was to start the software development work easily. But apart from just helping in the software development work, it also has a variety of uses. So one by one, we will learn the important uses of a well formulated SRS document. So the first reason of this, that why we need to develop a good SRS document, is that it forms an agreement between the customers and the developers. So a good SRS document, it will have the stage for the customers to form their expectation about the software, and the developers will also know that what is expected from the software. So it will in a way help both the customers and the developers to know that what is being built. So the developers will know what the customers want them to build, and the customers will know what the developers are actually building, is that satisfying their expectation or not. The next reason for a good formulated SRS document is that it will reduce future reworks. So it's very obvious that suppose this process of preparation of SRS document, it will automatically force the different stakeholders like the company people, the development team, the testing team, the customer team. So they will be forced to think about the requirements over and over again before designing and development gets underway, right? So this will later on reduce the redesign, recoding, retesting things. Because suppose our company, a certain particular team is building something, so they have done a good documentation of what they have built it, what the expectation, what was the requirements, which requirements they gave priority, and so on. Suppose that activity went on to some other project team in the same company, so they won't be starting from the scratch, right? But they will be starting from where the work is being left. So from there they will start. So it will help them to it will reduce the redesign, recoding, retesting part, it will be reduced. And if we carefully review the SRS document, it will also help to eliminate the misunderstandings or the inconsistencies that may come in the like making of some project. So obviously a good documentation of a project which is being developed or under development, it will always help in the later stages to the same team, or it will always help to the other team also, in order to reduce the future rework regarding this design, code, testing and all that. Next reason is that it will provide a basis for estimating the costs and schedule. Why is that? Because if I properly know that how much time will be needed, how many employees will be needed, how will I know this? By looking that what is the amount of work that needs to be delivered to the client. So if I can estimate the amount of work, then I can obviously appoint the people, the experienced people, or there I can say that you will be involved in this project for this much amount of time and so on. So obviously one estimate can be done. So the project managers, they usually estimate the size of the software from the analysis of the SRS document only. So based on this estimate, they make other estimations like the effort which is required to develop the software, the total cost of development of the software, and so on. So as we see that this SRS document, they serve as a basis of price negotiation also with the customer. Because if you can build the SRS document in rightful manner, and from there if you can estimate that how much manpower, how much cost is associated with the development of this software for the client, then obviously you will be able to estimate or decide that how much like profit or margin you want to keep, how much price will you place to the customer so that you may be able to make a good profit. You want average profit or you want a good profit, so there will be a scope for negotiation with the customer. So this project manager, they use this SRS document for work scheduling. So accordingly, they denote or they appoint the number of people, the type of people, and they schedule that you will be associated with this project for this many amount of this much amount of time. Now the thing is, suppose three people have joined that company as a fresher, and there are five people already working in the company for the last 10 years. So suppose these 336 together, the manager has clubbed these six people together, and together they are making a project for the client. Now what happens is, obviously the salary of these fresher people, it will be very less in comparison to the 10 years experienced persons in the IT industry. Now what the project manager will want, that I will appoint the experienced person for 3 months, and they will do the measure of the things, and I will appoint the freshers on this project for 6 months or for 1 year, so that they can take time and do the project. And what will happen is, those three experienced candidates, they were appointed in the project for 3 months, so they took the money, and and the project manager again picked up these three experienced and appointed in some other project. And what the freshers did, they continued the project for 1 year, with the major works being done by the experienced candidates, and the little works they could do by themselves. What happens is, the cost of the software development reduced to a great deal, because for the majority of the time only the three fresher candidates were related, so their salary is very, cost of development of the software also was aggregated to be less. But if the project manager would have included the experienced team member for the entire 12 months, then the cost of development also would have increased, right? So this is the thing. 1 minute, okay, just a minute. Okay, so this is the thing, that it, from the looking at this SRS document, the project manager can also schedule the work, that is to which people for how much amount of time he will schedule in order to gain a good margin for their company, he can decide. Next point is, it provides a baseline for validation and verification. So this SRS document, it provides a baseline against like which compliance of the developed software can be checked. It is also used by the test engineers to create the various test plans. So in order to validate it or verification or to do verification of a product, the document, some document is also needed against which the compliance will be made, against which the various test plans will be made. Okay. And the last cause is it facilitates future extension. Okay, so the SRS document, it usually serves as a basis for planning any future enhancements, right? So this was all about why we were like studying so much about this SRS document, why we are studying so much in depth about the SRS document, and why we need to spend our valuable time and resource in developing a SRS document. Now, before we discuss about how to write an SRS document, now we first need to discuss the characteristics of a good SRS document and the various points that one must consciously avoid while writing an SRS document. So in order to write a SRS document, we need to know what are the characteristics of a good SRS document, so that we can follow that thing and we can know that what we need to write and what we do not need to write in an SRS document, right? So the next topic is characteristics of a good SRS document. Up to this portion, anyone had any issue? Now, this skill or this ability to write a good SRS document, it will usually come from experience which is gained from writing SRS documents for many projects. But the analyst should be aware of some desirable qualities that every good SRS document should possess. So IEEE, they have recommended several desirable qualities that every good SRS document should have, and these are this practice is referred to as IEEE 830. Okay. IEEE 830, they describe the content and the qualities of a good software requirement specification. So this this article, it refers the content and the qualities of a good SRS document, and according to these specifications, majority of the SRS documents are written. Okay. Now we will discuss some of the identified qualities of the SRS document that are desirable or that are cannot be missed rather. Fine. Okay. So the very first quality is concise. That means the SRS document should be concise, means it should be compact, and it should be compact, and at the same time it should be consistent, it should be complete, and it should be unambiguous, right? So irrelevant descriptions, verbal descriptions, they reduce the readability and they will increase the possibility of errors in the document. So any irrelevant, incomplete, ambiguous, inconsistent matter or descriptions we do not include in an SRS document. And at the same time, whatever we include, we will always include it as a compact manner, right? Next point is implementation independent. Okay, so this SRS document, it should be free of the design and implementation decisions. That means, suppose I am telling you that write an algorithm to implement binary search in an array. And I am telling you, write a program in C to language to implement binary search, and write a program in C++ to implement binary search. Now the first one is implementation independent. I have asked you to write the logic behind the implementation of binary search. And if I write the algorithm, if I write the logic, it depends on the person how he will implement, whether it can be implemented in C, or it will be implemented in C++, or it will be implemented in Java, or it will be implemented in Python. That is dependent on the person who will be writing the program. But in my document, I will only keep that the logic or the algorithm of the binary search. This is known as implementation independent feature, that I will only write the logic, the algorithms, the way at arriving the results, but I won't specify that in which language or in which tool the thing will be done. That will be specified by the development team. They will decide in which tool they are comfortable and all that, right? So this SRS document, it should be free of this design and implementation decisions. And unless those decisions will reflect the actual requirements, they cannot be free of. So it should not specify that what the system should do. And it should, it will not specify that how the system will do it. It will only specify that what the system should do. That is, in order to implement a binary search algorithm, what is the logic? This will be specified. But how you will implement this logic in C, or how you will implement this logic in C++, these things won't be at all written. So implementation independent means what the system should do will be specified, but how the system will achieve that or how the system will do that, that things won't be specified. So this means that the SRS document should specify the external physical, external visible behavior of the system, and it will not discuss the implementation issues of the system. Okay. Is this thing clear? So this SRS document, it will specify or it will describe the output that is produced from different types of input, and a description of the processing which is required on the input to produce that output from that input, that is also specified. So what will be the input will be specified, what output are we expecting, that will be specified, and what processing needs to be done on the input to generate the output, that also will be specified. But the internal working of the software, it is not discussed or not specified. So how that thing will be achieved, that is not specified. What is input, what is output, then what processing needs to be done on the input to generate the output, that is okay. But how will the development team arrive at that processing? How will they implement, in what language, what platform, what tool? Those implications will not be specified. So basically a SRS document, it always acts as a black box view, because it doesn't have the internal knowledge, it will only display the external feasible behavior. So it's a black box view of our demands. Okay. So the SRS document should describe the system to be developed as a black box. Remember this thing. And it should specify only the externally visible behavior of the system, not the internally how they will react also. And for this reason, the SRS document is also known as black box specification of the software being developed. So if someone ever asks you that, yeah, okay, fine, you are preparing a software, do you have the black box specification of the software? So do not like jumble up. The black box specification of the software means they are simply asking, have you prepared the SRS document or not? So since SRS document only emphasizes on the external visible behavior of the system, it is also referred to as the black box specification of the software being developed. Okay. Now, the next thing is the traceable. It should be possible to trace a specific requirement to the design elements that implement it, or from the design we can go to the requirements, or from the requirements we can go to the design. So it should be possible to trace a requirement to the code segments that implement it and the test cases that test this requirement, or like from, suppose from a requirement we are going, from the requirement we are being able to trace, and we are going to those code section where this requirement is implemented. Then from code we are being able to trace it and go to the test cases which is used to test these requirements. And similarly, if I start from test cases, I can go to the specific code which is tested, and from this code I can also go back to the requirements for which this code was prepared. So this is known as traceability. And traceability is a very important characteristics because it will verify the results of a phase with respect to the previous phase. So if I cannot trace this phase from this phase, or I cannot trace this phase from this phase, then how will I be able to verify that my previous phase is right or wrong? So traceability is very much important because traceability is very much important because it will help to verify the results of a phase with respect to the previous phases. And also, if I can verify the results of phase, I can also analyze the impact of this changing a requirement on the several elements. So suppose I have verified, then I am changing some requirement. Then also if I can go from this requirement to code section, I can check that the changes, due to the changes in this requirement phase, what are the problems that are faced in code phase? Then again, what are the problems or what are the new changes that required to be done in test cases? So traceability is very much important for two reasons: in order to verify the results of one phase with respect to the previous phase, and also to analyze the impact of changing a requirement on the several elements of the software, right? Next point is a good SRS document should be modifiable. So customers, why it needs to be modifiable? Because customers, they frequently change the requirements during the software development procedure because a variety of reasons. So what happens is the customers, they keep on changing their requirements from the software. So if the customer, they keep on changing their requirements from the software, so we also should give the space to the software, that that software should be modifiable at any instance of time, right? So in practice, the SRS document, they undergo several revisions during this software development, and an SRS document is often modified. 1 minute. And an SRS document is often modified after the project completes, in order to accommodate the future enhancements or the future modifications or the changes. So to cope up with these requirement changes, the SRS document should always be easily modifiable. It should not be a very rigid thing. There should be scope for later alterations or inclusions of several demands from the customer. It may happen for the 2 years, they are not demanding anything, but it may happen after 3 years, the customer is demanding that some changes need to be done or some new features need to be incorporated. It may happen, right? So for this, an SRS document, it should be well structured. And why it should be well structured? Because a well structured document is easy to understand and it is easy to modify. Okay. So like if I have the description of the requirements scattered across many places in the SRS document, it won't be a wrong thing, but it will tend to make the requirement difficult to understand in the later phases and difficult to modify also. So for this thing, like the document needs to be structured. If the requirements, I keep it in a scattered manner here and there in the document, it's not a wrong thing to do. But later on, since it will fetch difficulty in understanding and also in modifying those requirements, so it is desirable that I will keep it in a structured manner. That is, this page to this page contains only the requirements of the client. This page to this page contains only the code of the client. So like this, the document should be in a structured manner, right? The next point is identification of response to undesired events. That means the SRS document should discuss the system responses to various undesired events and exceptional conditions that may arise. That is, any out of the bound conditions, out of the bound features, any undesired events, all these things should be written or discussed properly in the SRS document. Then the sixth and the last important characteristics is verifiable. Now, all the requirements of the system that are documented in the SRS document, it should be verifiable. This means that it should be possible to design the test cases based on the description of the functionality, right? So whether or not requirements have been made in an implementation, but it should be able to design the test cases which are based on the description of the functionality. So if I write a statement that the system should be user friendly, in the requirement section, I write this statement that one of the requirements from the customer is the system should be user friendly, right? Now this is a vague sentence. The system should be user friendly means user friendly. This term appears as different meaning to different type of people. If the customers are very well educated, they will be able to use the system very easily. If the customers are very not such well educated, then how will I represent this term user friendly? So this type of sentence are not verifiable. On the other hand, if the statement is there that when the name of a book is entered, the software should display whether the book is available for issue or it has been loaned out. Now this is verified. If I specify the exact requirement of a customer in proper terms, I can verify that requirement. But if I specify a requirement in vague term, I cannot verify the requirement. So the requirement that the system should be user friendly, it's a vague requirement. I can verify it. But the requirement that when the name of a book is entered, the software should display that whether the book is available for use or the book has already been issued against some other person. Now, this is a verifiable requirement. This is a verifiable statement. So, any feature of the required system that is not verifiable should be listed separately in the goals of implementation section under the SRS document. So statements or requirements that are verifiable, that will be stated under the verifiable section, and the features that are not verifiable, they should be listed separately under the goals of the implementation section of the SRS document. Okay, so these are the characteristics of a good SRS document. Fine. I hope you have understood it. Now, very less time is remaining. I will just share my screen for you to give the attendance. Wait a minute. Okay, so all the people, please mark your attendance. Everyone, please mark your attendance. The people who are being able to mark their attendance, they may leave the class.